Hey up, it's Nos Gamer here. Welcome back to my little Amiga project. I think we're on the 4th video by now. I'm beginning to lose track, but I'm really enjoying it. I've been playing a lot of games since last time, little flying around trying to work out what I'm doing in Frontier without just inadvertently getting attacked by stuff. It's a lot of fun though, I've got to admit. But what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to start off by removing the floppy drive. I'm going to be replacing that with Gotek today, so I can try and boot my floppy images from there, as I'm having a lot of trouble just getting Workbench onto that flash card. It's not something I've done before, so the learning process is there and I'm struggling through it at the moment. But I figured being able to load my disk images from the virtual floppy drive on the fly, not have to flick through and swap disks a lot just to get bits of software on there, is going to be a lot more sort of streamlined a process than it will be having to organise all the disks and whatnot. So we'll start off with that, and then there's a few more of the things I want to do along the way. But yeah, let's get this all unplugged and plug this Gotek drive in, see what we've got. So I'm just going to start by removing the keyboard because I've got to flip the machine over. So let's pop him out. And then while we're here, we might as well unplug the drive itself. As you can see, since last time I've covered that over with something just to stop it being exposed. I didn't have a solder mask, so I just plopped some nail polish on it, which seems to work for now. So yeah, it's a nice blue blob, guys. So we've got pop the Workbench disc out, would be a good idea. One screw there to remove. Nah, ideally I'll leave that one till last because we've just got to flip the machine over. There's 3 on the underside. I might just do it while it's on its side to save my card coming out. Now, before I found it was touching these, and I've tried to cover it once and I tried to prop it, but I figured the best way of dealing with it was to just pop this and make it level as it was laying towards the PCB, and eventually the card was just getting warm and sagging, I think, and just the components were touching. So I've just removed it a tiny bit from the socket, and that seems to have eliminated any of the crashes I was having. And as you can see, I've moved to a new location in the room as the Amiga took over my desk. So I had to build a little platform to keep all my other stuff on. It's where I do a lot of my video editing and stuff, so I'm trying to make it like a nice little office bench. So we're over in the window for the moment till I've built. What I'm going to do here is build a little workstation for these kind of videos after this, but at the moment I'm just making do with what I've got. So now that we've undone those 3, just slap this guy off here. Don't remove it, just slack it off a bit and lift your drive out, and away we go. So that's all safely removed from there. I brought myself a pre-assembled Gotek in a case, but we're going to dismantle this and do a few, well, not minor modifications. We're just going to move the screen around and a few bits and bobs, but essentially I'm going to have that sat in there on the side of my Amiga. But what I want to do first is just pop it open. I want to remove this and the screen from the side, feed them up through the case and have them sit on the top just behind the Amiga logo, so you can see what you're selecting on the screen and it's easily selectable. So let's get started with that, and for the moment get rid of Mr. Amiga. So essentially what we have to do now is just dismantle this Gotek. Now I've got these out, that should just open up and shows the Gotek drive inside. But what I'm interested in doing at the moment is moving these through the top case here. But I've got to find a nice place for the screen to sit. It does look out of contrast with the Amiga completely, as that's bright white and that is a seasoned tanned machine, which I do like. It's a natural tan of this plastic, but that will change further down the line anyway. But for the moment I'm just going to find the best way of popping it in here. So just at the front like that, or in the centre of the Amiga logo would be nicer. Legs may need trimming, but what I need to do is get the components out of the Gotek through the top of here with minimal fuss. And I think the best way to do that will be to just pop out one of these little case vents, as I found they came in really useful for keeping the card cool. So what I need to do now, as you can see, this one's wired up with the speaker. It's got the little screen with the 3D bracket to hold it in there. and the selector switch. And what I want to do is get the screen and the selector switch in there. I'm not sure if I want to put the little speaker in, as I don't really know what it's going to sound like because I've never used one before. But yeah, let's just see if we can get this fed through there and then plug back into the Gotek on the underside of this, and then we can reassemble the machine. So yeah, I had an accident with the cutters. I didn't realise this part's a lot thicker, and I clicked it and it cracked the outside. I thought it was just a little vent I could clip off, and it's cracked the case. But we can hide that with this. So, silver lining. So what I want to do first is just dismantle this, which is relatively easy to do. Only so I can get the screen out, which is on that plug there. Temporarily pop that in. I'm not going to fit that properly yet. I'm just going to temporarily pop that in. Return to the bottom. Now we've got to get this Gotek into the correct position. So now I've got it in. Did it a bit long-winded and I may have had to chop a little bit more case, but now we've got to get this part on top of the other part. So somehow I've inadvertently made this a lot more difficult for myself than it should be. Change of plan, I've mounted it inside there for now because I've got to get this screen somehow on the top and in this. Oh, slid in there like that. And bring that around the inside also. And have that all on the top of the case. That's the plan. So let's see if it all fits through the hole. Or if I got to make this unfortunate hole in my Amiga bigger. Here we go. Okay, wait, stop. Oh, whoa, hold up a minute. I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with how this install's going. So I've stopped for a day or two while I thought about it, backtracked, and got some new supplies. I was struggling to get the Gotek case in. I got it in and I tried to mount it here, and every time it had just come away, and this would disappear into the Amiga, and all of a sudden it'd either black screen me or it would just reboot. So something was touching here. So clearly butchering that to get it to fit, and butchering the top of my Amiga case, which I really am not proud of, was a bad move. So in order to put right what I've just butchered in this beautiful machine, I have invested in a better bracket for the Gotek, which will drop in and screw through the case like so, holding it in position so I can move the USB in and out as I like. Because what I was struggling with is, while I'm trying to learn this install of the workbench, I was having to keep removing the top of the Amiga to pop the flash card in and out after I'd configured it on UAE, and it was causing all manner of problems. So not only did I do that, I got some longer leads for the screen as well, because that was a massive hindrance in getting the thing back together. So yeah, let's do this properly, guys. Let's get on with it now. So I'm going to start with screwing the bracket in from the bottom, and then we'll get the Gotek in and we'll get it all mounted to the top and see from there what else we can do. So let's just flip this for a second. Again, apologies for the new filming area. It's going to change. I got rid of my old bench. I modified it, I'll show you in a minute, to get my other Amiga on. so I can play and capture and stuff. So yeah, that's currently out of bounds filming, man. Can't get everything on there. So I'm just going to tap this screen through the bottom, just get the bracket in. Just pop it in the side. Much more secure. Now when we drop this one on here in the correct position, on the correct peg, I may have to just trim. There's a little bit excess on that board there. This is going to be horrendous. I don't want to break this. I'm right with these cutters. You saw the case. Beautiful, much better fit. So let's just screw that down secure. Hey, yes, little flash drive, USB drive, whatever drive. Little plug-in doodah goes in there. I don't like to worry too much about what it's called. I'll get my doodah and I'll shove it in there and it's fine. Yes, no movement there. Do one more screw in that corner. Just get him in just to secure that one corner there. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Much more appreciate that finish than the other. And I can just pop the speaker for the floppy drive anyway, literally just let it flop about, so that's not an issue. There should be enough cable on this now to poke it through the top of the case into that screen with minimal fuss, and then just pop a bit of glue on to keep it in place like we did before, and then just pop that in next to it, and that should look lovely. So we can plug the keyboard back in now. In fact, before I do anything, just make sure this Gotek fires up, nothing's plugged in. Make sure the ribbon cable for the drive reaches, which it does, which I'm happy about. Good, because it's a very short piece of cable, and then we'll just flick it on and see what happens. There we go. And then the speaker whirring away there as it loads a disk image. So let's just imaginary keyboard and then off. Right, so let's get this all back together now. We know the drive's in, the drive's working, so we'll plop the keyboard back down. This should give us much easier access to the card inside the flash card itself as well. So I'll just pop that all back in. Sorry guys, you're going to have to see the horrible hole I made with the cutters yesterday trying to get that short cable to fit, but worry thee not, once it's all in place you cannot see it. But yeah, horrendous mess, sorry. Sorry Amiga people, I will put it right one day. But for now, just remove that USB drive. Now we run into a snag. The snag is my flipping case won't go back together. Go, it pops down, but I'm gonna have to trim the little Gotek knob because I don't want to trim the case anymore. I don't think it's fair on the case. So this little bit here looks like it may be a little bit too wide. To shave that down somehow. So I sanded down the bottom of the drive so it will fit better. So with a bit of luck, this case will go together now fine. We're going to have this ridiculously horrible hole that I've made in the top. That's slid on a lot better this time. Missed the button, it's all flat, but at least there's not a hole there now. Fit in the Amiga.
I don't want to have to trim, but I might be forced to trim. I can't get that in all the way in the port. I think without having to trim the case.
So I got like a little USB extender. I don't mind that till I find a pen drive that fits that properly. It's not excessively bad. Make sure that's reading okay. Loading the workbench. Perfectly fine. So what we need to do is get these back in the top. And as you can see, I've got oodles more cable this time. I'll just get the gun fired up, put a bit of hot glue at the end just to hold that in place, because now it comes away lovely. We can get our screen fixed in properly. So unplug Mr. Amiga. Plug in Mr. Gooey Louie. So now Gluey Louie's warmed up, we'll just go a bit on there, just to hold it in place. As this didn't come with a bracket or anything, but a bit of hot glue always works. And there we go. So we can pop this back through now, with no worries. Man, just a little more. It interferes with the plug, please. So all we'll have to do now is just tuck the wires underneath to get that on the top. I'm not going to fix it down. I don't think I'm going to fix it down at all, because it is. You do need to remove it to get any access to inside the Amiga properly. So for now, that's in. I will clean this up eventually. A bit. But for now, we just need it functional. Let's flick that Amiga on and see what we get. Oh, we get no screen. There we go. Loose wire. So we now plug that in. It loads fine. That's a temporary solution for now, but importantly I can access the buttons on the drive and there's no movement there, and the cable's on in an absolute stretch on the inside. So now that's all in, it's time to have some fun trying to get this workbench installed. Okay, so I hit two snags guys. The first snag was I was suffering random crashes on the machine. I couldn't work out what it was. I tried an up-to-date version of sysinfo and it turns out that this memory is faulty. It's either that or it's for the wrong machine. I don't know, the pin connector's smaller, but that could be anything. But it's not reading this memory. So I've had to put the old 0.5 meg one back in. It reads that, it works fine, nothing's crashing anymore. I was always thought it was down to the way this was mounted, but it's not. I had a faulty memory expansion module. So that's working fine now. But the only other snag I've hit is my kick ROM is only 2.4. As you can see, just there, I've got a kick ROM version 2.4, which doesn't support IDE, so I can't use the compact flash IDE adapter to install Workbench on there. So what I've done is I've ordered a kick ROM 2.5, which is a minimum ROM you need that supports these IDEs. So when that comes, we can drop that in and continue with the Workbench install. But for now, what I want to do is just drop in a drive select cable underneath the CIA chip, one of these, so I can flick my Gotek from DF0 to DF1, which allows me to use an external floppy drive to play all my original games, because I don't know about you guys, but I do like using my original discs as well. There is a little bit of nostalgia attached to dropping that in a floppy drive. and hearing it tick over as it loads. But what we'll do for now, just pop that ribbon cable away so we can see, is I need to pop out the CIA chip. That's why I've got my little ROM lifty tooly thing. Hopefully this will go a bit better than it did when I removed the 68,000, because that was painful. This will just drop in place of it, pop the CIA chip back on top, and this will flick between your internal drive being DFO or DF1, which will ultimately switch to external as well. So you can continue to use the Amiga with discs or with the Gotek drive. So let's get this chip off. Always remember which way it goes on. Looks like there's a little knob or cut out at the end that matches the board itself as well. Wow, that was surprisingly easy. Wow. Okay, I bought a tool for this and that just went pop. So some of these chips are housed really nicely, and others, like Gary, as we saw in the earlier videos, where he'd seized up, was a bit hard to get out. 68,000 was difficult to get out, and this one, now I've got the tool, this one just went, no, you know what, Nos Gamer, I'm going to pop out the socket nice and easy. So let's get this in. I'm not going to argue. So line those pins up and just press it down. Of course, lining those pins up's the difficult part. Pressing it down is the easy bit. There we go. And then your CIA chip back on top. Notice the cut out there. There's also one on the socket as well, so you shouldn't get it the wrong way around. But just in case, drop that back in. Make sure all the legs are in the holes and it's seated correctly. Oh, that should pretty much be it, other than finding somewhere for this to pop through the case. What I want to do, pop you out of the way a second, mate, is probably bring this across here and somehow just get it through there. I mean, once the case is in, the switch only really has to be accessible with my little finger. I could have it that way up. More of an up and down, but considering the gap, I'd rather go for left or right. Get that along there, shove this under here. But yeah, I'm going to try and get that in place just on the end there somehow. So we'll try and peel a bit of this away on the bottom. It's a 3D print, so it shouldn't be too bad to just shave some. So talk about improvising, there was a bit of plastic on there with a logo in it, so I've taken that off, popped a hole in it. It's still got a little bit of adhesive on the back. Super improvised here. Chop that flat. That will form the plate on the outside, which means I can then just screw the washer over the front, and that should hold it in place without need for hot glue. Nice and secure, I don't see that going anywhere now. But now I've done that, I forgot what drive I'm on, so that should be a laugh when we put it back together. So there we go, we've got the Gotek in, we've got the Terrible Fire card in, we've got the drive selecting, we've gone back to a 0.5 meg module because that was a faulty memory module, so we'll come back to that. I'm looking into more upgrades in terms of memory as well. But for the meantime, we'll put this back together and see what we've got for now. So I can use my external floppy drive to run some discs. So through the hole with you all again. Beautiful. So switch there. Gotek there. Screen on top once we get this back in. go, all reassembled. Let's just power that on to make sure I've not caught anything in the case. So there we go. My plan all along was to have this sat alongside there on the Amiga once it's in, and be able to switch between so I can install floppy disks
and play my original games.
So that's DFO, DF1. Flick the switch, should be DFO, DF1. So we should have no activity from this drive. Because it thinks it's drive 2. This should just immediately start loading your disk. Ah! Next problem, I suppose. Yeah, we have a problem. That sounds like a motor spinning freely. So my grand vision of an external drive looks like it's going by the wayside for the moment because my drive's faulty. Love it. There's always a challenge every step of the way. There's just something new. So away we go. Got a new switch, got a new screen. Amiga's happy. Floppy drive isn't. Right, so even though the drive doesn't work itself, it's still recognised by the Amiga, so I can still check that my drive select install has worked by loading up sysinfo. So let's have a look. Select my drives. DFO currently has no disk inserted, which means that I've currently selected the external drive, because in DF1 is my sysinfo disk. So if we power that off, flick the switch and power it back on, it's nice to see that the disk boots from both DFO and DF1, but if we go to drives now, we'll find my sysinfo disk is now in DFO. DF1 has no disk inserted. So the switch works, we just need to have a look inside this floppy drive now, work out what the problem is. So now we've established that the drive select's installed successfully and it works. Let's find out what the problem is with the floppy drive. So as we know, it powers on fine. It's a shame the connector there is different to the standard floppy drive, because I would just use that. Of course, if I can't fix this, I'm sure there's a way to adapt that to be used as an external drive, so I'm not too worried there. But it looks like somewhere inside this machine something is no longer working. Pop you away. Let's see how to get inside this. I see two screws on the outside, and I think that might just lift away. If we can see there, just get in there. The band is in there. It's very, very loose. So when these spin, I don't think it's moving that at all. So it looks like the external drive's faulty, as well as the memory that I had that was faulty, which is a double whammy there. But I mean, topped off as well with the case cracking as I tried to cut a small piece out, which ended up in the disaster hole in the top. But other than that, we've got the drive select installed, which is working nice and well. and we've got the Gotek screen installed on the top with the disaster hole underneath, but once it's on it looks okay and it's running fine. So what we need to do now is get that kick ROM 2.5 in there so we can install Workbench, get this repaired if we can. If not, come up with some sort of external solution for using the old floppy drive, which still works a treat. So there's plenty for me to be doing in the background in the meantime. I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. Please like and sub if you haven't already, and share around so other Amiga lovers can see me destroy these things. I've been Lost Gamer. This has been my little Amiga project. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.